it's the top pair. And we're going to start with Jake Sanderson because Jake Sanderson has just elevated his game. He's 21 years old, second year in the league, and I think it's fair to say no sophomore slump.
No, definitely not. And Ross, what a refreshing change of pace going from evaluating the goaltenders to evaluate, which were unstable, to evaluating the top defensive pair, which has been the epitome of stability on this team. I mean, they've played more on the ice than anyone, I believe, even more than any forward trio, right, Ross? Like they must have. So it's clear that these two found chemistry with each other, and Jake Sanderson, to have a guy like Artem Zub on his right side, has really, really worked out for him, and it's allowed him to try to elevate his offensive game more, as he's had higher point totals this year than he did last year.
The pair of Jake Sanderson and Artem Zub played 828 minutes together. And the next most out of any forward or defensive combination for Ottawa was Jacob Chychrun with Jacob Bernard-Docker at 431. So almost double anybody else. And rightfully so. It was working. And with Jake Sanderson in 79 games, he set a career high in goals with 10, a career high in points with 38. He was a +8 on a team whose goal differential was not great. And his 5-on-5 expected goals percentage was one of the best on the entire team. You look at every statistic, whether you want to go advanced analytics, whether you want to go basic, time on ice, the way he kills penalties, everything about Jake Sanderson's game screams elite. I thought that there were some times early on in the season where maybe he was getting overwhelmed, especially defending the rush. I felt like there were a couple plays where, either he was gassed at the end of the shift or whatever the case may be. I just felt like they were able to pass it kind of through him a couple times, but he was able to fix that up real quick. And throughout the second half of the season, he took another step forward. I always go back to what Brad Schlossman out in North Dakota told us about how he takes a little while to dip his toe in. And then once he's comfortable, bang, then he starts knowing that he can dominate. And I think we felt that a lot more at the top of the umbrella on the power play. Sure, the power play wasn't great overall, but his ability, even at 5-on-5 in the offensive zone, to control the puck. How many times, Pilsy, did he bat down clearing attempts at the blue line, keep it in, and set up either another offensive chance or a goal? That is such a talent to have as an offensive-minded defenseman, to get those second, third, and fourth chances in the O-zone. I mean, this guy, he's an elite talent, and I'm glad he's an Ottawa Senator, and I'm even happier that his extension of 8 years hasn't even kicked in yet.
Yeah, and Ross, not only batting down pucks, but you see on those power plays the awkward moments where he's the only guy at the top of the umbrella and the puck trickles or it's wrapped around the boards, or a rebound or a block shot starts slowly rolling out to clear the zone, and you're the only guy back there at the top of the umbrella, and somehow he's able to get a stick on it, which is one thing. Don't let it clear the zone so you don't have to re-enter. But then not just giving it away and allowing odd man rush the other way. He's able to control it and find something to do with that puck that's a responsible choice and not turning it over. So there's so much we could get into with Jake Sanderson. The thing that has to be dialed in on, though, is his skating. And his skating allows him to do things that other defensemen just can't do. He's able to pinch on maybe an aggressive pinch, and then he can say, look, I can make something out of this play because I'm such a fast skater. I'll get to that puck before you. But let's say I don't, and I've maybe made a mistake pinching. I can hustle back and not only put pressure on you, but he can chase a guy down and fully eliminate him from getting that breakaway, where lots of other defensemen, if you get a step or two on them, rightfully so, that offensive player is probably going to boost past you and get a breakaway. So Jake Sanderson does a great job of using his skating to create offense and to make up for maybe some mistakes that happen in the offensive zone. So yeah, I couldn't be more thrilled with Jake Sanderson's game. He's one of those guys that you start thinking okay, he's got the skating, he's got the shooting. With 3 or 4 more years of experience in the NHL, the sky is the limit for what this guy's potential could be.
And I'm really looking forward to his next evolution, because I know he watches a ton of Cale Makar. They're both Calgary guys. They're both guys. And I'm sorry, Jake, I know you're from Montana, but you spent some time in Calgary. I get it. So with Cale Makar as the king of getting pucks through traffic on net, I'd like to see, and I know that Jake Sanderson watches a lot of Roman Josi as well. he's watching the right guys for his style. Miro Heiskanen, another one that in the past he's brought up. Like, these are the elite two-way defensemen, not just one way. Guys who can impact the game in so many different areas, and Jake Sanderson will be just that. I'm extremely confident in that projection, just based on what we've seen and knowing the work ethic behind the player, that he'll will himself to get into those situations. Really happy to hear he's going to go play for Team USA at the World Championships this year. I don't think it's crazy to say that he should be in the mix. I don't know if he's going to make it, but he should be in the mix for the Olympic team 2 years from now. He'll be 23, 24. He'll be in his prime. That's a huge carrot dangling in front of Jake Sanderson over the next couple of years. This guy was a 2-year captain at the U.S. team development program, so we know how highly Team USA thinks about him. And if not, maybe Canada could come in and say, hey, we know you got a Canadian passport. Jokes aside, though, Jake Sanderson and Artem Zub, who we'll get to, they had to deal with the top lines of the other team every single night. Pilsy, there was no night that they had off from that. Whether they were at home and that's the matchup they wanted, or whether they were on the road and they were just playing the most out of anybody anyway. So I just think that the sky's the limit. And look, I mean, we're starting off at the top. There's going to be some other end-of-year reviews that aren't as glowing. But I really think that if we're going to talk anything poorly about Jake Sanderson's season, other than a little dip, end of November, start of December, that area, other than that, I mean, he was as consistent as there was a player on the Senators throughout the year.
Yeah, and a couple of points just to wrap up our talk on Jake Sanderson, Ross. I'm not about to blame a 21-year-old defenseman for November and December slumps when the team was absolute garbage. So we'll give him a pass on that. And then you're talking about how him and Zub have to go up against the toughest opponents. But in all situations, if they're up a goal, you're putting those two guys out. You're down a goal, you're putting those two guys out. You're tied, you're putting those two guys out, right? Like, they were the guys on the back end. And then just finally to finish up, you talk about him getting a spot on the Olympic team. Good thing he's already played for the U.S. Olympic team. He's got don't forget, he played one game for Team USA and had an assist. He's a point per game guy for Team USA in the Olympics. So I'd say it's a pretty good chance.
There you go. And also Jake Sanderson, first career fight. Got in a fight with Matthew Tkachuk this year.
Matthew Tkachuk of all people. That's crazy.
But hey, that game had a high temperature, and credit to Jake Sanderson for stepping up and throwing some haymakers. Outside of that fight, only 9 minor penalties this year for Jake Sanderson, and that is in 1,834 minutes of ice time. Truly impressive season for Jake Sanderson. Jake Sanderson, we already talked about him in the MVP discussion for more for the team, of course, and that can be heard last week on Locked On Senators. You can go find that wherever you get your podcasts.